All right, and just want to make sure, do we have anybody that's in the meeting? One right now? Or just you? So hold on.
0 so far.
Okay, we'll see how they come along. Thanks for coming. Obviously, it's a smaller group tonight. My name is Lance Ferrado, Director of Business Licensing. And this whole process has been to comb through our code, revise things, update things. We want to make it easier to understand, easier to enforce, easier to follow for everybody, the business owners, the city staff, everybody. So what we've done is we've broken it all down into segments, this being the 4th day and the final section of code that we're going to talk about. And we'll have in a minute here, we'll have a couple topics up here, but obviously at any point, if you have questions on any other type of code or any other type of licensing, feel free to ask. There's no problem with that. We can jump around. But again, this is an opportunity for the public to comment on this stuff. This is for you. We don't have drafts of what we're looking at. We don't have changes that we've already made. We want to know what you would envision to make business easier. What would inhibit you? What inhibits you now? What can we work on if possible? So with that, if you have questions, just raise your hand at any time. Same with Zoom. Just raise your hand and we'll pull you over. We do have some Spanish assistance here if necessary. And I understand we have in the room massage, someone interested in massage therapist and interested in that code, that chapter, and then just a small business owner yourself. So I'm going to jump through this stuff and kind of just go through it quickly, and you stop me, where you have questions. All right. Next slide. So first, our motel inspection program. This actually is more of a code enforcement task. Anybody that's licensed as a motel has to go through this process, and they have to get normal annual inspections to make sure that they are up to date health and safety wise. They're offering a good product. It's not being run, as a slum of anything. They want to make sure that everybody that has this license is properly utilizing they're probably running their business, right? And it's a safe environment for everybody to live. Again, this is more of a code enforcement task, but it resides in the business license code. That may be something that changes, but for the time being, that's where we have it. And I know that the code enforcement director has his eye on a few things that he thinks can be streamlined a bit, but at this point, if there are any questions on that, then I can answer those. If not, I'll keep moving forward. How you doing, sir?
Good, and yourself?
Good. Next slide. So adult business. This pertains to 2 types of business in the city. One is an interactive cabaret performer. So any sort of dancer, they need to get a work card. They have to go through that process in order to be employed in an adult cabaret. And then there's also the adult businesses like bookstores, movie stores, things like that. A lot of these have to do, the restrictions have to do with adjacency, and that's in our planning and annexation code, but as well as our business license code. Certain applications have to be made, and some regulations that obviously have to be followed pretty tight for the type of sensitive use that it is. Next slide. Stemming off that, adult interactive cabarets. You would more commonly know these as a strip club. Again, work cards are necessary. There are a lot of record requirements and actual business requirements of operational nature, as far as lighting, video surveillance, things like that. At this point, again, this is something that we only have a few of these in town. A lot of this code that we're going to be looking through, we're looking to update it and modernize the language a little bit too. Some of it's old and people don't really know what it is. So we want to streamline it that way too, and things can be more clear. Than we would like recommendations on that as well. Next slide. Back one. So you got escort and alcohol services. Again, there's one escort licensed in the city at this time, I believe. I don't know that we have any alcohol services. This is more sensitive in nature as well. Escort being someone that accompanies people on a date, on a night out, and alcohol service being someone that comes to a location to provide entertainment services. A lot of this stuff hasn't been touched in years, so language needs to be looked at and needs to be updated. I'm not sure that, like I said, we only have a few in town, so we don't get complaints on what it means really, or exactly what license type is needed for that type of activity. Next question, or next slide. Right-of-way toll, this sneaks in here, and it's an interesting one. It's more of a franchise functionality than anything. It has to do with Tumwa, and basically for every house or every residence that Tumwa services, they pay the city a percentage. And so it's in business license code. I don't know if it will be later after we go through this revision and kind of clean things up, but that's what it is. I mean, nobody knows really what it means until you really dig into the language right away. First thing I thought was like bridge tolls or something, right? It's water. So next slide. So medical and adult use cannabis. This code was rewritten, cleaned up about a year and a half ago. We combined medical use and adult use and then changed all the definitions. It used to be referred to as marijuana, now it's more cannabis. We updated it to reflect new statutory language and basically condense it to where we're not just regurgitating statute. We really rely on the Cannabis Compliance Board to handle the investigations and the approvals and the ownership transfers and things like that. We do just have at the city, obviously, we have interest in where they're at, and then the revenues that they pay, the application processes to be permitted and such. So there's not a whole lot of changes that will take place in here as far as I can think of, other than there was some new statutory language introduced about dual licensees, being able to sell medical and adult use if you're not already. So there'll be some fine tuning from legislative language, but other than that, I don't know if anybody on the call or in the room has any comments on this code and how it's affected them.
Can I have a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for the city of Reno, how often does cannabis renew their business license? Is it quarterly like the county, or is it annually?
They pay it quarterly.
They pay
So,
quarterly.
yeah,
They
so-
pay at 3% too?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And they have everyone has to have an annual business license, and then if it's privileged like this, they have their privilege license. So they pay an annual license for, things like if they're selling T-shirts or.
For the accessories?
Yeah,
non-cannabis.
accessories, things like that. Yeah, the cannabis itself is 3% every quarter.
So where we've got, I own Soul.
Okay.
So where we've gotten a little sideways from time to time with local jurisdictions is origination of transaction.
Okay.
So for example, we're a Washoe County business licensee. If I transact with one of your Reno license holders, we got to figure out how the handoff goes from an assessment standpoint of that 3%, because Washoe County wants to collect it on everything that I transact. City of Reno now wants to collect it on anything that we sell into the city of Reno, and that double taxation, we got to figure out where that handoff takes place, because there seems to be a lot of confusion, and more so with Southern Nevada than Northern Nevada, because it's like Washoe County wants their bump, Clark County wants their bump.
Sure.
And that's just, I don't think that was intent.
Sure. Can you give me an example of how you're saying you would be selling outside to someone in Reno?
So for example, if I wholesale and it leaves my facility in Washoe Valley and ends up at Mint in downtown Reno. So Washoe County views that as a transaction that I pay 3% on.
Right.
The city of Reno has expressed, well, wait a minute, you delivered product to the city of Reno, to a licensed facility in the city of Reno. So I've got to have a business license for the city of Reno. Okay. And when I record that transaction to show to the city of Reno, now they want 3% on a transaction that Washoe County has already collected.
Got it.
3% on. So
okay. Is it your understanding that is there language that's silent on this and that's the way it's being interpreted, or is there language that is there and it's being misinterpreted?
I think that it's a combination of this is the only industry that doesn't put resale permits in place. So this excise tax that's charged exponentially. So I think it's when you start talking excise, a lot of the common business practices go out the window. So like the city of Reno, and I'm picking on you guys because we're here.
Sure.
The city of Sparks look at it and says, hey, guess what? An excise isn't subject to any of the same standard business practices that a regular transaction is subject to. And I said, wait a minute, I wrote 453B.
Okay.
The intent was that local jurisdictions were to participate at a 3% maximum. And that 3% isn't a stackable maximum. So if I'm paying Washoe County 3% on a transaction, they're the only people participating. Other local jurisdictions are saying, wait a minute, you've consummated a transaction within our jurisdiction, we need our 3%. And so I just think it's important for local jurisdictions to get together and say, guys, there's only 3%. So whether that goes into a collective pool and is distributed based on population or whatever, I just think there's some opportunities to clean things up. And while you're looking at your chapter, I think it's important to get Washoe County involved in the dialogue. I think it'd be nice to get City of Sparks involved in the dialogue, because at the end of the day, you know, the industry is under attack right now from a taxation and regulatory standpoint. And if we continue to stack, there won't be an industry to worry about.
Sure. Okay, those are good comments. Were you gonna say something?
I was just like, if we can meet after the meeting, so I can go over your case scenario,
It's all good.
so I can see what's actually happening.
Of course.
Because I'd love to correct it, because we don't run into that issue very often.
Yes.
Because we're all about not double taxing wherever we can. So if we meet after, that'd be
It's all
great.
good.
And just curious, while we're on that note, has this, I don't know if you or any of your, anybody from your industry, has this been discussed at the state level for clarity?
So I consult, for lack of a better description, for the CCB because of how involved I was in writing the medical language. So like I was with the executive board last Thursday and we were talking about this very topic. So there is a desire for everyone to get some clarity because, you know, as the CCB is in the process right now, as of January, their entire taxation structure changes, which is going to impact the city of Reno. It's going to impact, you know, all of the local jurisdictions as well as the state. So they're really trying to figure out how to make sure that A, we're paying what we owe, but B, we're not paying to the point of it crushing the industry.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's great information. I appreciate that.
Of course.
Yeah.
On this, and I apologize,
Not at all.
I do
No, this is what it's for.
365 days a year.
Yeah,
So-
no, glad to hear it.
So with the advent of the new fixed license types, you know, I have the only lounge license in
Right.
northern Nevada.
Right.
But now they're talking about cannabis special events, you know, we're talking about what I'll call pop-up events. So how's the city trying to deal with those new, I'm gonna call them licenses, and they're really not licenses,
Yeah.
but those new event-based.
Right. Yeah, the event stuff hasn't been discussed really at a policy level.
Okay.
The lounges, as you probably followed over the last year, you know, we talked about that in front of council, and there wasn't a desire to move forward at the time. But the event stuff has come up, at a low level to say, you know, how would we approach this? And, it's something that needs to be discussed more with council, I think, to see if like, this is something that they want to license and entertain. So it's still a work in progress.
So from an industry standpoint, I'll just tell you guys, it's frustrating where what we're seeing happen, and I can show you a dozen facilities today in the city of Reno that are hosting private events.
Okay.
And, you know, I spent $10 million to open a facility, and now I got a guy at Chub Jubs doing God knows what with unregulated, untested cannabis, and because it's under the guise of a private event, it's not being policed.
Got it.
When we've called enforcement, they said, hey, we can't do anything for a private event. I said, wait a minute, a ticketed private event that's selling cannabis is inherently wrong on so many different levels, but enforcement is not doing their job.
Sure.
So trying to figure out, you know, because we want to be good stewards of the local community, but we're also, in my humblest of feelings, we still get treated like the redheaded stepchild, like, hey, we love you because you pay us money, but just don't call us the bitch about any of the services that every other business.
Sure.
You know, if there was an unlicensed liquor store, an unlicensed bar, you guys would be there in 15 minutes, but because we're talking about cannabis, it seems like it's a little bit of a hands-off type of area.
Interesting. Okay. No, that's good to hear. I appreciate the comments. Let's move on to, you're on the wrong one anyways.
I don't know what's going on here.
It's all right. Next one.
We've got a lot of massage companies in this town.
I'm
Yeah.
a massage therapist,
Right here.
yeah,
Wow.
and I'm a legitimate massage therapist.
No rub and tickle?
No, no happy endings.
Damn it.
I do not deal with bodily fluids. There are people that are licensed to deal with those, and I just. I
That's not
won't-
your Huckleberry.
No, it is not.
I don't need a card.
No.
Kidding.
I don't have a card that deals with bodily fluids.
So again, this code is somewhat new. It was rewritten in the, before COVID. And then there was some updates to it right around the COVID time as far as background checks and things like that. But for the most part, this code is pretty bland in what the city requires as far as additional requirements on top of the state. It follows state, state statutory framework. And there are bits and pieces in the city that are more restrictive than statutory languages now. But there are certain things in here like definitions and what can be utilized in these establishments, like shower, and some places use shower tables and some places use showers and just it attached to the room. Certain things are not allowed, certain things kind of cross the line as fuzzy as like, is this allowed, right? So we're working with the massage board, and we want to clean up that language and make it consistent so everybody knows what's the appropriate, what are the appropriate steps to do what you want in these places and follow the rules, frankly. So is there anything?
Just for clarify, and I apologize, because I'm messing up.
Yeah,
Are we talking like sex massages, or are we
No,
talking like
this is legitimate massage therapy.
legitimate massage.
And all
where you take a
estab-
shower? Like, I've had a million massages, I've never taken a shower. one time.
because we are allowed to do like clay masks, and we can actually
Yeah.
do spa
Okay,
treatments.
okay,
And,
now.
and with those people that do wraps and stuff,
Okay,
which are
yeah.
legitimate for massage
Sure,
therapy,
yeah.
they would have a
Okay,
shower
yeah, yeah,
available.
yeah.
Okay, just to let you know.
No, no, I was
you
just
know
saying, I
what
was
that
like,
is.
man, I've never.
And,
had a
one of
shower.
the things that I know that the reason that this has come into play is it was Vegas that caused a lot of the issues because I was involved in the teaching, so I got in some of the other areas. But what was happening with establishments that had massage,
Mhm.
they were running like 50 to 100 therapists, and maybe only 4 of them were licensed. They would go in and find the people that were doing the massages that weren't licensed, but the establishment was not being held responsible. The next time they'd go in and check again, here we've got 50
Different.
people, but we still only have 4 or 5 that are licensed. And now every establishment, I have to be licensed as an establishment. If you have 1 or less therapists in, you don't have to pay for the establishment license. But if you have 2 or more, 2 to 5, I think it's $25, 5 to, and it's a,
Yeah.
but they're not trying to make money from what I understood with it. So I'm an independent, I have been an independent for 13 years, but I have to have that license as well as my Nevada
It's like a
massage
haircut.
license.
Got a business license, and then every.
Well, I have a state license, I have a Nevada massage license, I have to have the establishment license now, and then I have to have my city license. And they all come due this month.
Yeah, so, like you said, it's regulated, like there's a lot of licensing involved in this, and, from the city's perspective, we'd love to hear if there's something that's like, that makes it tricky for you, or makes it confusing, or makes it over the top on paperwork, or, the process that you went through to get the license, or to maintain the license, any of that kind of stuff.
It wasn't a problem, just our code number is awful close to the cabarets and in the brothels, and we always get thrown into that.
Gotcha.
And it has me concerned because we've been trying to get out of that since the board came in 2008, 2009.
Okay.
And it just makes it very hard. And so when you get these listings that they're looking and we get thrown back into that category, it just makes it very uncomfortable.
Sure. Yeah, all right, thanks for saying that. And maybe that's something we look at.
And
when we
him
do
asking
this.
what kind of licensing,
Yeah,
what
makes
kind
sense,
of,
yeah. That's
you
the first thing I
know,
thought
and
of.
that's where people go. And
Sure.
it's like, no,
Yeah.
So
And,
this
and maybe
is-
we'll have a little say in that when we have this, when we rewrite this and where it's organized and, so we can, can clear it up a little bit.
Yeah, take us out of that category.
I do have someone on Zoom that'd like to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. Sarah, go ahead and unmute yourself and then you can ask your question or comment.
Okay. Yeah, not a question, more a comment. And I agree with what was just said in regards to our profession. It's really insulting, actually. I've been doing this independently as a business owner, paying the same 3 licenses that were mentioned. And I run an establishment just for myself, and I always have for 16 years. And it'd be really nice to have a much wider separation between our profession, which is more medical, than the cabaret, escort, etc. industry.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. I appreciate that comment.
Is it possible, like I look at things like simple stuff like language change. Like to me, all of this is clarified if it says therapeutic massage.
Right?
Then
That would help.
there's no question. I mean, like the other one is kind of therapeutic, but in a different way.
Yeah, no, you're right. Wording, it goes a long way. So yeah, we can definitely look at that as well.
Thank you.
Anybody else online? No?
Nope.
All right, next slide. So franchises, I know this was confusing in the first section today and maybe a little bit today, but franchises in the Reno Municipal Code does not refer to like a franchisee of a small business, like a, McDonald's per se, or, something like that. It's a franchise agreement between the city.
Waste management.
Exactly, great example. Waste management is one of the most prominent ones. Most of your, like the power company, and things that are holding the infrastructure together, the city, they have franchise agreements with the city, certain terms. They're basically big legal contracts between these. This is something that may or may not reside in the business license code. As we rewrite this, it could shift into another section, so it's a little more clear on what it is. It's not confusing. Like, this does not have to do with me being a small business owner and getting a franchise, right? So again, it's mostly legal documents and jargon that it may end up somewhere else in the code.
In other municipalities, they call it a municipal franchise agreement.
So again, wording, like you said, throwing a couple words out there makes it a lot more clear. Telecommunications is along the same vein. It's basically I don't even know why they cut it straight out, and it didn't just fall under franchises, but that's something that may also change.
So what is this like with the video services? What are we talking?
Telecommunications could be anything like that could be like charter, like people that have access to the right of way, they're providing services within the city.
Okay, so it wouldn't be someone, because my husband's an electrical contractor and he does camera systems.
No.
So this doesn't involve him.
This
Okay,
is
because he was
super-
concerned about that, but he's on a job right now,
Yeah.
so.
It's at the infrastructure level of the city. So
Okay.
yeah, again, the verbiage could be more elaborate and it would be less confusing to someone.
Exactly, because he was going, what are they gonna do
Yeah, what are they gonna
now
do?
putting up cameras? Because he's got one job, he just finished, 240 cameras on the site,
Sure.
and it's like, okay, I will let him know not to worry.
Yeah, tell them. that's what we're-
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Next slide. So that's this section. This is that's all we've got for you tonight. This is the next steps in the process. After this, we're gonna take what we learned at all 8 meetings, pull it all together, organize it, get all our internal information together that we've been collecting over years of what's confusing about the code, what people complain about, what could work better. We're gonna compare it to other jurisdictions. We're gonna local and out of state, similar sized municipalities. We're gathering information from the other departments and what they run into with our code and hiccups that they see. Then we're gonna give that to our consultant. We're gonna get a draft together and bring that back and show you all again. And then we're gonna go through the same process and say, here's our red line version. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you want to see differently? And then we'll move through that process and ultimately do a business impact statement, which is, again, it's more review for the public and more time for feedback and comment. And then all that goes to council and then they can deliberate and decide.
How much interjurisdictional collaboration are you seeing? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, my family's been here 6 generations, so,
Sure.
so there was clear geographical definition between Sparks and Reno and unincorporated, but now that we're just turning
Yeah.
into a metropolis, it feels like some of, you know, from a business owner standpoint and from a citizen standpoint, some of the confusion that I see is this close proximity
Mhm.
variation. You know, Sparks does it one way, and I know, you know, I've written enough regulatory language that I know everybody likes to autograph things with their own signature,
Sure.
but oftentimes that granularity from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, especially with the proximity that we're talking about, I mean, is there
Yeah.
collaborative efforts with Sparks and Washoe to try to shore things up more consistently for our little?
Yeah, there is, and it's more on a micro basis between the chapters, like as things come up. Like specifically sidewalk vendors right now, that's a big one at the state level, and that's
Sure.
drifting down to all of us. And we're trying to make sure that we can be consistent across the board.
Right.
Because if you're administering different regulations in Sparks versus unincorporated versus Reno, everybody gets confused and you get no cooperation.
Right.
It makes it much more difficult to enforce.
Well, and you also have people that get, what I'll say, opportunistic about where
Yes.
they exploit,
Yes,
you know, hey, Reno's got a flaw in the ointment over here, so let's play the game over here, or Sparks has this, or unincorporated. So I just think
yeah,
the more synergistic that you guys get and collaborative,
for sure.
you're gonna make everybody's life easier.
Yeah, I agree. And as we kind of come through with drafts, we will be bouncing this stuff off the other jurisdictions as well to see like, you know, do you agree with this? Do you not like this? What are you thinking? Are you gonna do code changes or are you gonna, you know, we want to have those discussions so that there's awareness and there's, you know, we're trying to make it better for everybody. Because like you said, all the jurisdictions are together now.
Right. Well, we share emergency services, you know, I mean, there's so many opportunities that you guys beautifully collaborate, and then, you know, like Washoe County's in the process of area plan updates and master plan updates and trying to pull as much language out of use tables as possible, you
Yeah.
know. Sometimes we get too granular in the wrong places,
Right.
and then it's tough to unwind that, because, hey, you can't be revisiting this on too frequent of a basis, because it's a big lift.
Exactly.
So it's,
Exactly.
so sometimes painting with a roller is much easier than a fine tipped brush, you know, keep it generic and then deal with
Right.
things on a very sometimes case by case basis,
Sure.
or industry by industry basis.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good to hear. You know how to do this. So you can handle it.
I've been doing it for 40 years,
No, I appreciate it. It's great.
I wrote code before I became.
Yeah, okay, good. Next slide. So basically, if you want to submit anything in writing, or if you know anybody and you want to tell them, hey, put your 2 cents in, we would like you to forward it through blcode@reno.gov. That's where we're collecting all that information. If it comes in another way, that's fine. You know, we have, we've recorded this stuff, we've done we have people submitting forms through the website. If somebody called and told us something, that's great, but writing's the best. We can have it in writing, we can show proof that somebody did care about it and that, you know.
But what we've talked here tonight, we.
Yeah, absolutely. That's on the record, and
Perfect.
we're gonna take all these notes from this stuff and combine it with the written form, the written comments and everything else, and package it all together.
Is there a, what I'm gonna call a live document or a live database? Because something that is overwhelming from your guys' standpoint is
Yeah.
850,000 people giving you the exact same comment.
Yeah, so basically, we're filtering it, and
Okay.
yeah, we're just going through and, we're, like I said, we're gonna organize it the best we can. And if you go to that website, reno.gov/business license, it was on the letters that you got. It's kind of got a breakdown of the timelines and links to meetings and all that good stuff. So,
Wonderful.
yeah, and if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out, and we're happy to answer anything at any time. Anybody online have anything else? Doesn't look like it. Okay, and that's it. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.